What is good, y'all? This is JB here, and today we're here with the end of the year list. Basically what I do at the end of the year is I compile my favorite hip-hop albums and K-hip-hop albums and kind of put it into a little, concise list for you guys. Now, from the start, I want to emphasize that this is my personal top 10. These are the ones that I enjoyed the most. There's not so much a critique on the quality or the production styles or whatever. However, I will factor that in. So I'm going to be telling this in no particular order. If like one is number 6 and another one's number 1, it's not that number 1 is better than 6 or anything like that. This is just kind of how I listen to it and how I kind of compiled the list. So let's just get it started. The first album I got on here is Jay Park's Worldwide. Big fan of this album, man. I absolutely loved it. Long awaited, it's a follow-up. I believe it's his 3rd solo project, and it's following up his evolution of last year. He always puts out pretty bulky projects. This one is at a heaping, 18 tracks. I do got it pulled up right here, and it's an absolutely fantastic album. Bangers from start to finish. We got Worldwide, Mome, with Occasion. We got the Cha Cha Cypher, Want It. I mean, look at the list goes on and on. We got On It, Seattle to Seoul at the end, Fuckboy, which is my personal favorite song on the thing, and we got Boss Lotto. So again, the list goes on and on of just banger tracks. You could tell that it was fine-tuned, and he kind of wanted to do everything that he does. He did kind of say that he wanted to make a hip-hop album, and I don't know if this is it particularly, but I know that this is, as close as we got into it, because this is just hip-hop from start to finish, R&B elements, but definitely none of the ballads that his previous projects had on this particular one. And I have to say that he really utilized his kind of crew on here. You got Ugly Duck features, you got Big Y, Sick K, DJ Wagon, of course, Crush, Simon D. I mean, Honey Cocaine, I believe, is on this album, if I'm not mistaken. And Occasion, Vasco, Giddy Boy, G2. Just a really important album for this year, and really emphasized the sound. And I was really impressed by some of his rap abilities. The beat were top tier, and overall really satisfying album. So yeah, and a lot of music videos came out of this album too as well, so big fan of that. The next album we got, number 2, is the Quiett's One Life to Live. Shout out to Illinit, shout out to Doki, man, and my guy The Quiett, and he put together a new album here. Now, is this my favorite project by him by any means? No. However, I thought this was a pretty strong project. It had a great track listing, and overall, I just thought that you could tell it was quite fine-tuned and kind of wanted to go with the overall sound of what, K-hip-hop is moving towards. Sorry, I'm pulling it up right here. But yeah, some great tracks on here. We got World Famous, of course, with that Doki feature. We got a track with Beanzino, My Life with Doki and Beanzino. Now y'all know I'm a huge Beanzino fan. I love everything Beanzino puts together. I'm so hyped about that next project, whatever it is. So I was really excited to see him, pretty strong. And I mean, he's on two tracks out of 13, so that's not bad. And my favorite track would probably have to be the one with Babylon, Be About It. Personally, I'm a big fan of what Babylon's been doing, really working with the whole hip-hop circuit over there, and I think they really had great chemistry together. Now, The Quiett, I've always been a fan of his more jazzy production and style that he was doing a couple years ago, me personally. Then he kind of moved into the trap rap style for a while, YGGR and all that kind of stuff. Along with Doki, they both kind of went with that swag rap kind of direction there, and I was feeling that. I don't know if I particularly dig the Quiett's individual contribution on that style, but overall I think he really held his own. And now with this project, One Life to Live, the interesting and intriguing thing about it was it felt like an amalgamation of a lot of his different styles. I heard him some certain parts of the album where he was trying out a lot more chill kind of production, a lot more chill deliveries, and then other times it's straight trap rap and the whole braggadocious in my car is money kind of thing that he does. But overall I thought he did a pretty good job on that, and I think if you haven't heard that album, I think it's a very important 2015 album, and it was received quite good. And Doki also dropped an album this year that I wasn't really that into, but I was definitely feeling the Quiets, and I felt like Doki's presence on the Quiett kind of made up for that poor album, because I think some of Doki's better verses of the recent years have been on the Quiett's project. So the Quiett's One Life to Live, that's my second album. Definitely check it out if you haven't checked it out. Next we got the guy Illinit with his album Made in '98. Very, very important album this year. Definitely slept on. Almost as slept on as Yankie's album that we'll get to. Some really important tracks on this. Let's go through it. We got Where You At with Just This. I Am I. Very important song this year. I loved that song. I did a reaction to it. Check that out if you haven't thus far. We got Just Like on it. I'm On It with Fame J and 11. Yo, Illinit and 11 together are like one of the best duos, period, that I'm hearing out of the Korean circuit right now. I think they have great chemistry together. And this album is just really fantastic. It's very, kind of like indicative of the sound of somebody who's almost pretty much post-90s like I am. I was born in '94, but I was 6 by the time it was 2000. So I felt like, we're 90s babies, but we're not 90s kids. This is someone who I feel like is born in the 90s, definitely takes that as inspiration, but really, grew up in modern era and got all those modern influences and kind of, blended the two sides, blends what he loves and what he feels in his heart with what he's exposed to in his environment to make this fantastic project. I thought there was some great verses on there, great production on it, and overall a very, very cohesive project. That's what I would say the most, is that he made an album that flows from beginning to end perfectly, seamlessly, not a single dull moment on the album, and in my opinion, no skippables. So Illinit's Made in '98, definitely slept on. Please check it out if you haven't thus far. And next we got Dynamic Duo's Grand Carnival. Oh my god, y'all know that Dynamic Duo is pretty much my favorite Korean hip-hop group, period. Them, Epic High, Mfbty, they're all up there, but Dynamic Duo are my dudes, man. Gecko and Choiza are absolutely fantastic MCs. So I was really waiting for this album, and I was like, I wasn't even in my radar of whether they were gonna release a new album. And then it finally came here, and it's absolutely fantastic. Now let's break down some of the track listings. We got How Are You Doing featuring the Korean, R&B rookie Dean. I was really excited to see that. I love when I see OGs, give some light to the rookies, especially rookies really, making headway in the Korean circuit. So I was really glad to see Dean on there. We got JOTS with Nafla. Oh man, a boom bap banger, with Nafla bringing that West Coast charm to it. Absolutely fantastic. You got the title song with Verbal Jint. Verbal Jint making the rounds right now. I'm telling you, this guy's killing it. You got Jam, which was a really interesting, fun, kind of like radio single, with some of the Big Bang references in the music video. Really, really fun song. Picnic with Zico. You got Lydia Peck on Got It. You got Population Report with Sway D. Underrated song. And then you're finishing it up with Eating and Sleeping When Winter Comes. So you got a lot of fantastic tracks on Grand Carnival. It's fine-tuned from beginning to end. I could tell there was no, sleeper verses. There was no kind of throwaway songs. Everything you could tell had a certain place and a certain purpose in the album. And I thought it was just super warm production, old style, kind of tapped into the roots of hip hop. So man, I was definitely feeling it. I thought they both really held their own, and I think this particular project really stands up in the discography of Dynamic Duo. I'm not saying it's their best album, but it's by no means their worst. I don't even know how you do a worse, because when you have an artist like these guys who, in my opinion, have dropped continuously good material since debut, this just fits right in there. So it's tough to say, ranked in between Dynamic Duo albums where this particularly falls in. But, that I would need some more listens to their full discography to really, have that fresh in my mind. But I would say Grand Carnival is absolutely fantastic. Probably my favorite album of the year. But I'll figure that out at the end of this video. We'll choose my favorite album. But this is definitely one of the contending, and this is a must listen to any K-hip-hop fan. And next we got Gary's 2002. Y'all know Gary, one half of the Korean duo Lee Sang, doing his rap thing. Dropped the absolutely fantastic project, Mr. Gay, I believe last year. Short, I believe it was 10 songs or something. Or no, it was 5 songs or something like that. I'm tripping. It was a short little EP he put together. And so we get the full length 2002. Let's take a look at the track listing. We got He'll Do Well Anyway with Kunta. Great song. Doom Doom with Skull and Deepflow, my personal favorite. Y'all know I'm a huge Deepflow fan. Skull always brings that raga flavor to it, so I loved it. Joa with J Park, which is weird because I know it has a different song. It's like Butt or something. I don't know what the actual name of it is, but I've seen some weird things. But you got the track with J Park, you got Rap with DJ Pumpkin, personal favorite. Get Some Air with Miwoo, great vocals on that. And then you got some more like Alcohol Feeling with Jung In and Ha Hey with Yoonjun, Brown Eyed Soul. That was really dope. Love Brown Eyed Soul, man, and I love their contribution. For me, Gary wanted, I could tell with this one, really wanted to make like a hip hop album with like, you know, a lot of melodic approaches to it. This one was surprisingly melodic. It was almost like he was, it at points sounded like Lee Sang-ish with the amount of melody counterbalance with his bars and his delivery. He didn't come off exceptionally like hungry on this one or crazy verbiage. This was definitely more of like a vibe kind of setting piece. So really chill album, and I feel like often overlooked. I don't hear 2002 on a lot of people's radar, but it really should be, because I mean Gary's one of the better guys doing it, and I feel like a lot of his variety TV exploits, like on Running Man, kind of sometimes overshadows his music, which is a real shame because I think he's putting out some fantastic albums that are getting, you know, kind of slept on. So Gary's 2002, I would highly suggest you check it out. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a banger from start to finish, and I just think there's some like really great heart in this album that was really, you know, put into it. And next we got one of the biggest albums of this year, in my opinion, that I don't know how it was necessarily critically received, but we got Go Hard by Verbal Jint in its entirety. You know, he dropped part 1, and now we have this monster of an album, 21 tracks, not even a double album, just a monstrous experience. You know, with the bangers like Brand New Day. I mean, you got Karma, Soul State of Mind with you know, homeboy from Dynamic Duo. Oh my god, just such a great album overall. I've listened to it tons of times since it's dropped, and it's absolute like amazing wonder. His production is all littered on this. He's you know, his rap thing is always, I feel like he's gotten progressively better as a rapper personally. Some of his verses, earlier verses, I was like, not that they were bad by any means, but he was definitely one of those who I felt more as a producer than a rapper. But I really feel like he's come into his own. Definitely his exposure in the hip hop scene in these past few years, you know, his participation on various different shows and really kind of fostering different talent and offering his insight into, you know, various MCs has definitely, you know, impacted his own rapping ability, in my opinion. And it's definitely evident on this latest project, man. You know, it really varies in times. You know, you got some more energetic pieces, you got chiller pieces. There's parts where a lot of melody, other parts where there's just a lot of like verbiage and diction and passion. Just a fantastic album. Yeah, and again, it came out a little late this year in its entirety. You know, the part 1 dropped, I don't know specifically when this year, but it dropped in its entirety a little bit late. So I feel like, you know, some people may leave this out of their list, but this is definitely something I wouldn't, you know, overlook. Babylon is on this album too, and y'all know I love me some Babylon, and they have a great song together. So again, Verbal Jint, man, been doing it for a minute, and sometimes with the OGs they tend to get overlooked, and it's a shame because I think, you know, there's still a lot of great music coming out of these guys. So take a break from your oppa and then check out some of these guys, because yo, Go Hard is absolutely fantastic album and a must listen to a K-hip-hop fan. And next we have an album that I feel like is criminally underrated. I feel like people do not show this album enough love. It kind of came out, it had two or three singles with some music videos that came out. People were like, oh yo, they were rocking with it. But I feel like as an album, this wasn't really shown the love it deserves. And it's the boy Yankie with his album Andre. Oh my god, absolutely fantastic album. Let's just go through the track listing of my personal favorite. You got Sold Out with Tablo, Zion T, and Loco. Talk about like an all-star team right there. And then to me, the standout track of this particular album is definitely Prometheus. You got just a huge, let me pull up every feature on this because it's incredible. Okay, we got Prometheus, we got Doki, Juvie Train, Double K, Rap Monster, Top Bob, and Don Mills. Like, talk about, like, how do you even get something together like that? And shout out to Rap Monster. I want to show him a little love, especially to me. This is one of the outstanding verses, especially, you know, also on Buku Buku on Mfbty's album, which we will get to. But his verse on Prometheus is just one of the things that just got me, you know, feeling him as an MC, you know, outside of BTS. He did his mixtape this year, which is not on my list, sadly, this year. And I'm going to defend that right now. thought it was a good mixtape, but nothing necessarily that beat out these particular albums. Definitely on notable mentions that we'll get to. Let me write that down for notable mentions. Okay, so we'll get to that later. Great mixtape, but not necessarily something that I felt like warranted like on the top 10 in my opinion. But Yankie, my God, he pulled out something here that like I could be listening to this years from now. Real talk, like they do not show this love. Oh, can we talk about Exorcist? Oh my God. And the great thing about this album is that it's just so versatile, but when it gets gritty, it gets gritty. And like the kind of like artsiness of this album is what really kind of like solidified it and kind of like brought it onto my radar as something really special. I felt like you know, Korea is a super artsy place when it comes to their music. There's a lot of imagery, you know, symbolism, you know, style and fashion incorporated into their music. Definitely since, you know, fashion plays such a integral role over there. And so, you know, it's definitely evident on this particular album. And man, shout out to Yankie, man. I feel like if anyone with like a relatively bigger name, I feel like, dropped an album like this, it would get like a lot more, you know, praise than it did. But yeah, man, Andre, absolutely fantastic album. Please check it out if you haven't thus far. And next, we got Wonderland by Mfbty, which was actually a surprising title for me. Early at the top of this year, the Wonderland collective out in America, which is kind of like Janelle Monáe, Jadena, dropped something, and they're called Wonderland. And so when I heard Mfbty Wonderland, I was like, the name though. but besides that, I'm pretty sure I'm like the only one who ever made that comparison. Great album, man. A little background on Mfbty, you know, Korean hip hop trio. We got Tiger JK, Busy, and Yoonmi Ray, Tasha herself. And yo, man, they came back with another banger. Who knew that this late into their careers, not saying this late, but this far into their careers, after all these years, they could drop another classic hip hop album as far as you know, Korea is concerned. We got Buku Buku, you know, EE was on it, who's really intriguing. I kind of like got peeped onto them early this year, and I haven't heard much of them since their feature on this. They're kind of like this weird experimental thing going on there. So really cool to see them. You got Doki on Holly Who, which was really surprising. That kind of counter between Mfbty and Doki, kind of like two sides of the Korean hip hop spectrum coming together, was really refreshing for me. Bang Diggy Bang Bang, my personal favorite, that is an energetic kind of like, you know, India kind of inspired kind of Bollywood kind of thing going on there, and it's just absolutely fantastic. You gotta Let It Go, Junhyun the Beast. Hesitant on this song at first because I was like, yo, are they gonna pull out some Frozen covered nonsense? But they didn't. It was great. You got Busy Tiger, Yoonmi Ray, the Smells in Reno remix that they tagged on the there at the end there, kind of like a bonus track kind of thing. I thought was really cool. That I felt like could have been made. That could have made it like earlier onto the record. I think it was good enough to be beyond you know, bonus track material. But overall, fantastic album. We got Hello Happy, Halftime, Love Fortune, The Eyes. So they incorporated a lot of, you know, singles that they dropped afterward and before, and kind of just put it together into this monstrous thing. I mean, it's 16 tracks long, which is incredibly long for a Korean hip hop release. Y'all know that they stay on there, you know, 8 to 12, you know, at max. So anybody who goes beyond that, that's, you know, your J Parks, for example, you know, it's always really interesting. And they managed to keep my attention the entire way through. I felt like there was great participation from every single member. In particular, you know, Tasha lent some, you know, melodic approaches in certain parts. You know, Tiger JK always with the murderous verses. He always has that kind of like, you know, reggae kind of ish vibe to his particular bars. And then you got Busy, who really held his own, who I feel like is sometimes slept on as MC just because of the names of, you know, Tiger JK and Yoonmi Ray. So I was really glad to hear, you know, Busy just really kill it on his own on many parts of this album. So if you haven't heard this album thus far, please check it out and you will not be let down. It has flavors for every different kind of person, a lot of genre bending, you know, reggae, pop, R&B, hip hop, lots of different flavors on this. So check it out if you haven't. And next, we got Vasco's Mad Max. Now this has come out real recently, and this late into the year, you know, it even surprises me that I'm gonna throw it on my year, you know, top 10 albums or mixtapes, but you know, albums and mixtapes, you know, I'm kind of gonna put them together there. But I think this is a really great body of work from Vasco. Now, I feel like a lot of people might leave it off their list just because of, you know, how recent it is. It hasn't really got to sit. I haven't really got to, you know, listen to it a million times. But it was one of those things where I like listened to it like once, I listened to it again, and I was like, this is, you know, something special for sure. I was a little hesitant at first when he dropped this song, All Black. It was definitely kind of like a modern trap rap kind of, you know, approach, going for that kind of street gritty, aggressive kind of feel, reminiscent to some kind of like drill rap, Waka Flocka kind of stuff. So I was a little hesitant because it didn't feel like organically Vasco. However, I didn't necessarily want it to box him in. I definitely encourage MCs to try, you know, different things and then try their hand at maybe some modern stuff, but that song in particular felt a little inorganic to me. It kind of reminded me of like Shooters Wanted by Capone and Noriega off their Lessons album earlier this year, where it just felt really uncomfortable. It's like some old OGs talking about some street stuff, and it's like, stop it. Especially if they have like a lyrical, you know, boom bap or like OG kind of vinyl sounding background to kind of, you know, dip into the trap rap thing is kind of like, you guys don't have to. It kind of feels like a reach to a younger audience. But Vasco really proved me wrong on that one and delivered a fantastic project. Some of my favorite hip hop songs of the year are actually on this. Woha, an absolute banger of a hit. We got iDozer, which has this gritty, hard drum kind of beat to it. That's absolutely fantastic. Nico with Myondo. 40, featuring 40, which I thought, I wasn't sure if it was a typo the first time I saw it. I was like, really? But then I remembered, yeah, 40, there is an artist. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Stimpack, which is interesting. And I was wondering when I was sitting there, because Stimpack, I'm playing Fallout 4 right now, and that's actually something that's in Fallout 4 as like kind of like a health thing. So I was like, is that a Fallout 4 reference? I mean, the time would make sense. So that was an interesting kind of thing there. Got DJ SQ on here, BCW and YZ on All Black, man. Shout out to them doing their thing. I believe that they were just on a track not too long ago with C-Jam, if I'm not mistaken, but don't quote me on that, I don't know specifically. But Mad Max is a banger, man. It shows all the different sides of Vasco, his lyrical side, his hype side, his more, you know, smoother side where he adds a little bit of melody to his delivery. And I think he put together a really cohesive project for sure. And that's why this made my top 10, is the fact that he was able to take his various sides that feel worlds apart and make a cohesive project out of it this late into the year. And you know, a lot of times with sometimes these Korean mixtapes is that they literally just take their like album songs that then make the album their throwaways, put them onto the thing, or just rap over some popular beats, which is fine. They could do it like dedication style like Lil Wayne did. But with this one, no, this is treated kind of like pretty much an album. And it's super gritty, it's super hard hitting, and it's something that you can just put in the background, turn up to, do whatever you need to do. And I think, you know, the production's A1 on this. There's some great offering from every feature. I didn't feel like a single feature was wasted on this project. So Vasco's Mad Max, please check it out if you haven't thus far. You will not be let down. And lastly, one of my personal favorite projects of this year is Deepflow's latest project. I mean, there's not too much to say about this album other than the fact that it's almost perfect, I would say. Some of my favorite projects of the past, it definitely has like an older style. For example, the Street Poetry by P-Type that came out last year. So, you know, with this album, I was expecting a lot. I hold Deepflow to a really high level. Like, for sure. I know he's a high level MC. His beat choices, he tackles on some old style production, and he's always had like a gritty, aggressive kind of beat. And on this project has my favorite Korean hip hop song of this year, period, Jakdu with Nuksal and Huckleberry P. If you haven't heard this song and you consider yourself a K-hip-hop fan, slap yourself in the face because you're slipping. Please check this song out. I'm going to try to remember to link it below so you can check it out because I cannot recommend this song enough. Jakdu, this song alone puts this project in my top 10. That's how good this song is. The beat on it just like, oh my god. And then that kind of intro with that old kind of like Asian style production, you know, oh my god. Y'all who listen to the song, y'all know what I'm talking about. And to me, it's just an outstanding project where he really kind of like flexed his lyrical styles. He kind of brought out all different, you know, styles of production, really, you know, stern, sharp drums, you know, and kits used on this particular project. And yo, again, if you haven't listened to this project, you're sleeping on some of the best hip-hop out of Korea right now, real talk. And shout out to Deepflow. You know, Deepflow really kind of, you know, I've been listening to him since I've basically started listening to Korean music. And when I heard Looking Good, I believe, that was a song I was like, hold up, like, this guy's doing some big things. And this kind of just solidified it. So this is pretty much one of my favorite projects. If I had to choose, I'm looking at my list of projects that I chose this for my top 10. If I had to choose one, I think I'm going with Dynamic Duo's Grand Carnival with J Park's Worldwide at a close second. And you know, Deepflow has my favorite song of the year, you know, Jackdo by you know, Deepflow. But I'm gonna have to go, you know, Dynamic Duo Grand Carnival, #1 album in my opinion. And now for the last section before I let y'all go, we got some notable mentions, and these are just some albums that didn't make my top 10, but I really enjoyed and I wanted to incorporate into this list. And there's sometimes reasons for these, and I'll get into it. So my first notable mention is Primary's newest album, 2. Now this, if I considered a hip-hop album, I would have put it at my #1, no doubt. I'm not saying that any of these albums are better than Primary's album, because Primary is on a different level. We all know that his production style, the way he puts together some of these tracks are just, you know, transcends Korea, transcends hip-hop. And that's why I couldn't have put it on my top 10. The reason, I just don't think it's a hip-hop album. I think it definitely has hip-hop elements, but I think too much of it is R&B. Too much of it is just like melodic kind of funk stuff, you know, the kind of cafe style kind of stuff. And I just didn't think that there was enough of a hip-hop presence in it to necessarily justify its placement on a top 10. But do not get me wrong, it's you check my iTunes, it's one of the most listened to albums, forget about Korea, like in my iTunes period. I've listened to this so many times. I mean, the contributions, you got Rap Monster, you got Lim Kim on it. Okay, we got Mileage with Hwasa and Palo Alto. Dopey Shy with Choa and Iron. Really excited about that. Iron, he's my guy. You got Mannequin with Benzino and Suran. BSK and Gecko, Lim Kim and Rap Monster. So again, there's a heavy hip-hop presence, but I don't know if I can necessarily justify calling this a hip-hop album necessarily. So keep in mind, if I had it in my top 10, it would be #1 for sure. But I don't know necessarily if I'm counting it as a hip-hop album in and of itself. I think it has elements of many genres. I think in many points it could be justified as an R&B album. I think it could be justified as kind of like a experimental rap, you know, alt rap kind of thing. So again, and also you know, he did his thing with Hyuk Oh, so there's definitely that kind of thing. Would you consider that a hip hop album? You know what I mean? So definitely it's very nuanced as far as whether it should be included. Next, we got San E's The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Okay, so we got The Boy Who Cried Wolf. You got hashtag Love You Hater. On Top of Your Head with MC Grease. Shout out to him, you know, rookie doing his thing right now. Young kid. Feeling Good, you know, Don Mills. So Dope with Vasco and C-Jam. So a lot of big bangers on here. But the only reason this didn't make my top 10 is that I thought there was a number of snoozers on this. Definitely some, you know, skippable tracks on this, in my opinion. So, you know, I was looking more, I felt like there's just a lot of projects that were better as projects. Some of the songs in the contending, for sure. Love You Hater is something special that came out of this year. And then On Top of Your Head, a banger, absolutely. So definitely, you know, in the discussion for top hip-hop songs of 2015. But as a, you know, cohesive project, you know, I wouldn't necessarily put it in my top 10, but it's definitely worth mentioning. And then lastly, we got Rap Monster in his mixtape that he rapped on a number of other people's beats, you know, popularized. Did some Run the Jewels samples on that one. That was pretty dope. And some great songs on it for sure. And you know, I felt like it did, and people are gonna kill me for this opinion, but I feel like if this was out by anyone else, I didn't think it would get necessarily all the accolades that it got. I think it was a very popular album because it's Rap Monster, and because people, you know, BTS fans and Rap Monster fans kind of like deride everything he does. And I know people are gonna kill me on that, I'm sorry, but I didn't really think it was that great of a project. However, I think it had some notable mentions. I think it's super impactful to the culture as solidifying him. Another one that kind of transcends the whole idol rapper culture. You know, him, Zico. There's a number of people who I feel like kind of transcend that. And yeah, I mean, I thought it was an important project of this year, but I don't necessarily think that it's necessarily anything that kind of reinvented the wheels. I thought, you know, sometimes it was a little underwhelming in my opinion. So shout out to Rap Monster, no hate. I know y'all fangirls and fanboys are gonna kill me on that, but it's definitely not in my top 10, but I think it's worth mentioning. So there you guys go. I'm gonna review my choices. We got J Park's Worldwide, The Quiett's One Left to Live, Illinit's Made in 98, Dynamic Duo's Grand Carnival, Gary's 2002, Verbal Jint's Go Hard, Yankie's Andre, Mfbty, Wonderland, Vasco's Mad Max, and then Deepflow with his latest project. Notable mentions being primary to Sani, The Boy Who's Cried Wolf, and then the Rap Monster mixtape. If you have any questions, leave them down below, and I'd be really excited to hear what's your top 10. What are some projects that you guys like that didn't make my top 10 that I didn't mention that maybe you think I missed out on? Please let me know in the comment section below. Until next time, this is JV. I love you guys. Bye.